In a remote, snow-covered village nestled deep within the mountains, winter had always been a time of joy and festivity. The townsfolk would eagerly wait for the first snowfall to cover the land in a thick, white blanket. Children would rush outside, their breath visible in the frigid air, to build snowmen in their yards. This year, however, something was different. The snow felt colder, the nights longer, and a strange unease had settled over the village. It all began with an unusually fierce snowstorm. The wind howled through the narrow streets, carrying with it a chill that seemed to penetrate to the bone. The storm lasted for days, trapping the villagers in their homes and covering the town in snowdrifts taller than a man. When the storm finally subsided, the village emerged into a world transformed, silent, desolate, and eerily still. Among the many snowmen that dotted the village, there was one that stood out. It was much larger than the others, with coal-black eyes that seemed to follow anyone who dared to look at it. Its twisted, crooked smile was unsettling, and the branches that served as its arms were gnarled and claw-like. The children claim they hadn't built it, and no one knew where it had come from. As days passed, villagers began to notice something disturbing. The snowman seemed to change positions overnight. One day it would be facing the church. The next, it would be turned toward the town square. Some even swore they saw it moving out of the corner of their eyes. But when they looked directly at it, the snowman was still as ever. The first sign that something was terribly wrong came when young Tommy, the village blacksmith's son, went missing. He had been out playing in the snow with his friends when he suddenly vanished, without a trace. The villagers searched everywhere, calling his name, but all they found were his small footprints leading up to the strange snowman. Then nothing. In the days that followed, more children went missing. Each time, the only clue was a set of footprints leading to the snowman, which now seemed to be growing larger, its coal eyes darker and its smile more sinister. Panic gripped the village as parents kept their children indoors. But the disappearances continued, as if the snowman was coming for them. An elderly woman, the town's unofficial historian, claimed to know what was happening. She told the villagers of an old legend passed down through generations. Long ago, the land had been cursed by a wicked sorcerer who was executed by the village ancestors. As revenge, the sorcerer vowed to return in the form of a snowman, to steal the souls of children and bring eternal winter to the village. At first, the villagers dismissed her story as the ramblings of a frightened old woman, but as the disappearances continued, they began to believe. Desperate, they tried to destroy the snowman, but every attempt failed. They tried knocking it down, melting it with fire, and even smashing it to pieces, but each time it would reappear the next morning, whole and even more terrifying than before. The night before Christmas, the villagers held a meeting in the town hall. They knew they had to act fast. They couldn't let more children disappear. The elderly woman suggested that the snowman's heart, if it had one, must be destroyed. According to the legend, the sorcerer had hidden his heart in the snowman. Could the curse be broken? Armed with a silver dagger and only by piercing it with a silver blade, passed down through the woman's family. A small group of villagers gathered around the snowman at midnight. The wind had picked up and the cold was biting, but they were determined. As they approached, the snowman seemed to come to life, its cool eyes glowing with malevolent light. The villagers hesitated, fear gripping their hearts. But one brave man stepped forward and plunged the silver dagger into the snowman's chest. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a deafening roar, the snowman exploded into a whirlwind of snow and ice, the wind howling like 1,000 voices crying out in pain. When the storm finally subsided, the snowman was gone. The village was eerily quiet, and the missing children were never found. However, the curse had been broken, and the unnatural cold that had gripped the village began to lift. The villagers returned to their homes, thankful to be free of the snowman's terror, but mourning the loss of their children. In the following years, the village never spoke of the haunted snowman again. The snowmen built by the children were smaller, less elaborate, and always watched carefully by the wary eyes of their parents. The legend of the haunted snowman became just that, a legend, a story to frighten disobedient children. Years later, on the outskirts of the village, a new family moved in. They had heard the old stories, but paid them no mind. The first heavy snowfall of the season had just arrived, and the children were eager to play outside. They built a snowman, large and proud, with coal-black eyes and a twisted smile. As the sun set and the children went inside, the snowman stood alone, its shadow stretching long in the moonlight. That night, the wind began to howl once more, carrying with it a chill that seemed to penetrate to the bone.